I was only 4 or 5 when this happened, but I remember it like it never left me. It was right after my parents split. My mom and I were alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Even though I had my own room, I never slept in it. I always stayed in her bed. Something about that place just didn't feel right at night. Our rooms were at the end of a narrow hallway facing each other, and that night, it was hot. Middle of summer. The window behind my mom's bed was open, letting in warm air that barely moved. At some point in the middle of the night, I woke up. No noise, and for no reason. Just wide awake. I sat up slowly, still half asleep, but looked toward the hallway. That's when I saw our cat. He was sitting in the doorway, completely still, just watching. That alone was wrong. He never left my bed at night, never. But what really unsettled me was how stiff he looked. Like he wasn't just sitting there, but frozen. Focused, staring directly into my room. I followed his gaze, and then he moved. Slowly, quietly. He stood up and walked into my bedroom. As he crossed the doorway, he let out this long, low meow. It sounded wrong. That was enough. I turned and shook my mom, my voice barely working. "Mom." She stirred, confused, asking what was wrong. It couldn't have been more than a few seconds, but when we both looked back toward the hallway, my heart dropped. There was a man standing in my doorway, half in the shadows, like he had been inside my room the entire time. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't panicking, he was just there. And then he started to leave, calm, quiet, like he knew exactly where he was going. I couldn't move and I couldn't even breathe, but my mom didn't hesitate. In one motion, she grabbed me and ran to the window behind us. Before I could even understand what was happening, she lifted me and threw me straight through the screen. I remember the feeling of falling, and then hitting the ground, hard. It was only a few feet, but it knocked the air right out of me. A second later, she came out crashing right behind me, and then we screamed. Over and over, my mom and I kept screaming. Lights started turning on around us. Someone called 911. When the police arrived, they searched everything, but there were no broken windows, no forced entry, nothing. Just the front door unlocked. That was their explanation. He came in through the door and left the same way. But my mom kept saying the same thing over and over.
I locked it. I know I locked the door. I'm telling you, I locked that door.
Deadbolt, chain, everything. A week later, we found out something worse. My mom was cleaning the kitchen when she opened the small closet where the water heater was. Inside, there was a notebook. Not ours, but it was filled with names. Pages of drawings that didn't make sense. There were gloves and gum wrappers, like someone had been there for a while. The police came back, but by then, whoever he was already gone. And they told us the only thing that made sense. He didn't just break in that night. He had already been inside, hiding, watching us, and waiting for us to fall asleep. When my friends and I moved to the city for school, I felt like everything was finally beginning. We had all been accepted, and for the first time, we were on our very own. No parents and no curfew. Just us figuring out life together. My mom helped us find a place. The apartment belonged to a relative of hers, which made her feel better about us living there alone. Safer, she said. At first, it really did feel that way. The room was simple but spacious enough for all three of us. It had its own bathroom, a small sink, and a bunk bed. Micah and Bev took the lower bed, and I claimed the top bunk. That's when I started noticing it. The sleep. It didn't feel normal. Every night I would fall asleep into these deep, heavy dreams, so vivid and so detailed, like I wasn't just dreaming, but actually there. Colors were sharper, everything felt real. Too real to me. I mentioned it to Micah and Bev, but they brushed it off. They said I was just adjusting. I even tried switching spots with them one night, but it wasn't the same. Up there, on that top bunk, something felt different. Then midterms came, and everything changed. These dreams turned into nightmares. At first, they were the kind that you quickly forget, shadows, running, that kind of feeling of being watched. But it kept coming, every night. Micah would laugh it off when I told her. Bev just told me to pray more. She was always like that. Eventually, I stopped talking about it. I got used to being afraid, until the sleep paralysis started. It wasn't new to me, I had it as a kid. Waking up, unable to move, your body completely frozen while your mind is awake. But this felt different, heavier, like something was with me. And the worst part, I've always been more afraid of real people than anything supernatural. Because people are unpredictable. People can hurt you. Which is why what happened that night still doesn't sit right with me. It was our second year. Micah was out, sleeping over at her boyfriend's place. Bev and I stayed up late playing online games, laughing, trying to forget about school stress. I went to bed first, climbing up to my usual spot. Nothing felt off. Not yet. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up. I don't remember the dream, just the feeling. My heart was racing. My body was drenched in sweat, and I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis again. I tried to calm myself down, but then I heard it. Whispers. Faint, unclear, but they were close. I tried to shut my eyes because I knew if I saw something, it would be worse. But I couldn't fully close them. My vision stayed cracked open, just enough to see. So I looked around, slowly, desperately, until my eyes landed at the foot of my bed. And that's when I saw it. A head. Just the outline at first, then the shape became clearer. A man standing at my feet, still and silent. I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or at Bev below, but he was there, not moving, just watching. Panic hit me all at once. I forced my eyes shut and started praying in my head, repeating the same words over and over. Then I focused on moving, anything. My toes first, then my fingers. Slowly and painfully, I felt control coming back. And the second I could move, I snapped up. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, my hands shaking as I scanned the room. Nothing. No one. But something felt wrong. The door. It was closed, but unlocked. My chest tightened. I climbed down as fast as I could, turned on the lights, and grabbed a knife from the sink without even thinking. I checked everything. The bathroom, under the bed, every corner, every shadow. I don't know what came over me, but I knew one thing. If someone was there, I wouldn't hesitate. Outside, my dogs were howling. Not just one, all of them. The neighbors' dogs and even the landlord's dogs. Loud, aggressive, and nonstop. But inside the room, silence. Just Bev, still fast asleep, completely unaware. I locked the door immediately and sat on the edge of her bed, trying to steady my breathing. Eventually, I just laid down beside her. I didn't sleep again, not for the rest of the night. I stayed awake until morning, staring at my phone, waiting for the sun. When I told them what happened, they were shaken. But Micah focused on one thing, the door. Bev had forgotten to lock it. And that's what stayed with me because I don't know what I saw that night. I don't know if it was just sleep paralysis or something worse. Someone worse. So I started testing it. I asked Micah to sleep on my bunk, just once. The next morning, she woke up by hitting my arm, her face pale. She said she had a nightmare. Someone was strangling her, and she couldn't move. Couldn't even scream. That was all she remembered. Later, when my sister visited, I had her sleep there too. She said she slept fine, but her dreams, they were vivid and bright, almost too real. After that, things were mostly normal, but not completely. Sometimes I would wake up feeling the weight of someone lying next to me. Other times, it felt like my arms were wrapped around me, holding me when no one was there. By our third year, we moved out for different reasons, but I never stopped wondering, was it just my mind? Or was there really something in that room, waiting for whoever slept in that bed? I was about 10, maybe even 11 when this happened. At the time, I lived with my grandparents in a 3-bedroom apartment. The layout was simple. The living room, kitchen, and entrances were in the front, and all bedrooms were tucked away in the back, separated by a long hallway. That hallway always felt a little too quiet at night. It was already dark outside, just before dinner. I was alone in my room when I heard someone call my name. John! At first, I didn't think much of it, until I realized whose voice it sounded like. It was my friend. She lived down the block in another apartment. There was no reason for her to be there. I froze, listening. Maybe I imagined it, but then it came again. John! Clearer this time, calling my name over and over. The longer I ignored it, the louder it got. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I got up and walked down the hallway toward my grandparents' bedroom. I turned on the light and stood in the doorway. The room was empty, but the voice was still there. Only now, it sounded different. John! Distant, muffled. Like it wasn't inside the room, but somewhere beyond it. Like there was a wall between me and whatever was calling me. That's when I started trying to make sense of it. Maybe she was outside. Maybe she was calling me from the street. So I looked out to the window and saw nothing. The street was completely still. No people, no movement, no sound. Just silence. I stood there confused. And then I heard it again. But this time, it wasn't just her. It was her sister, too.
John!
Both of them calling my name at the same time. And this time, the voices weren't coming from my grandparents' room anymore. They were coming from my room. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I stepped back into the hallway and walked toward my bedroom. I didn't turn the light on this time. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to see what was inside my room. I tried to convince myself that they had just run around the building, that they were outside my window now, messing with me. The second I heard their voices again, I rushed to the window and looked out.
John!
Still nothing. No one, no footsteps, no shadows, nothing. At that point, I needed proof, so I grabbed my phone and called my friend. It rang longer than it should have. When she finally answered, I listened closely. In the background, I could hear her TV, loud and clear. I asked her where she was. She said she was at home, in her living room with her sister. They hadn't gone outside at all. There was no way she could have been at my window or in my hallway calling me. And there was no way I could have heard her from her apartment. Not like that. I hung up trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. Then maybe I had worked it up in my head somehow. But then, I heard it again. From my grandparents' bedroom. Both of them. Calling my name. This time, they were laughing. Not loud. Not playful. Just laughing. I didn't go back. I stayed where it was, my chest tight, trying to ignore it. A few minutes later, my grandmother called me for dinner from the living room, breaking what was happening. And just like that, it stopped. But I still think about it, because if she hadn't called me out of the hallway, I probably would have kept going back and forth between these rooms, trying to find something that was never there. If these stories gave you chills, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more true and terrifying stories. If you've ever experienced something you can't explain, drop it in the comments below or send it to my email. And remember, lock your doors and check your windows. I'll see you in the next one.